Yep. So we have Gerard there over in the bottom right of the screen. As I said before, he's between. He has getting passed to by Richard Wynn.
Right. Richard Wynn is passing to him. Is that
correct?
Okay, there we go. And you can also see
Aaron Lewis on the other side of him.
Patrick Sullivan there, kind of right in between Gerard and Ben, on Ben's left.
Yep.
And we've had quite an event here. Largest Magic the Gathering tournament of all time, if you haven't heard already. But it is extremely exciting to have been watching this all weekend.
So we're starting here. Last time we saw Ben move into a very aggressive Gruul deck. This time we have a lot of aggressive options from him. Daring Skyjack, Frilled Oculus, Madcap Skills, Hellkite Tyrant is the rare Cartel Aristocrat. So a lot of great places to start a draft.
It looks like he's considering possibly the Pit Fight. He did put that, there it is, kind of taking a look at that. A lot of pretty solid picks in there, and of course the Hellkite Tyrant is very bomby, but it's really kind of just a big flyer, which, is not bad. You're very unlikely to be getting many artifacts.
So Ben, out of that whole pack, is going to first pick the Pit Fight out of the pack.
And that was the first card that he kind of
and so it's interesting. What he's
around.
really trying to do here is he's trying to stay as open as possible. He didn't see a lot of cards that are fine enough to first pick. This will give him a lot of options. So Molten Primordial, now
another huge red bomb. There's a Sky Knight Legionnaire and Towering Thunder Fist.
Yeah, it looks like in this situation, he probably will be moving in. If he wants to stay more open, he can go Skinbrand Goblin, but he may just jump for Sky Knight Legionnaire in the pack.
Yeah, that is, again, the card that he singled out. He seems to single them out by moving it all the way to the back of the pack, kind of like, all right, I like this, I'm going to put this in the back and look at the rest of the cards.
So we saw in his last draft, and we've seen with a lot of players, Boros, one of the most popular decks, one of the more powerful decks. A lot of times players are looking for a reason to go into it.
We've seen two giant red creatures passed to Ben, well, opened by Ben and then passed to Ben, so Aaron Lewis getting...
If he wants to stay in red, Scorchwalker is an option. Angelic Edict also for the Boros deck.
Yeah, you see a Ruination Worm there as the fatty of the pack. White of Precinct 6. I think Scorchwalker is probably more attractive there.
I'm actually anticipating he's going to take. So he
goes with the white.
So an interesting choice there to go for the white. I'm intrigued by the pick because it really doesn't go with his first two picks.
Right, he has a Boros card and a Gruul card, but it fits fine. The pit fight is red, so he's
white is one of those cards that when you get early enough, you can really build your deck around it. And now I think a clear signal to go back into Boros for him. He's a fourth pick, Sunhome Guildmage,
and that's what he goes with.
Wasting no time accepting that gift.
Yeah, takes a look through the entire pack, make sure to actually see every card.
Interesting enough, there's an Angelic Edict and a Scorchwalker in this pack, which would, if he had stayed Blinders on Boros, would have been his third pick. I think those are cards, well, especially the Edicts, where he's not thrilled to play multiples of. I think he felt that those are cards he can get later if he wants to. He wanted to kind of cover his bases in case he got cut out of Boros.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. Here you saw an Ember Beast there.
So he's getting very close to locking into Boros right now.
Yeah, I believe he grabbed the Ember Beast. There was a Massive Raid and a Night Watch also in the pack.
Yeah, possibly one of those table. Probably not at this point, but certainly been comfortable going into a Boros pack. He seems concerned about some aspect of it. I think maybe it feels like one of the cards may have been marked or something like that.
Huh. Yeah, definitely an interesting facial reaction there. But,
I'm not sure what's going on.
We're seeing some laughter at the table, so maybe it was just some silly comment.
So see, actually, no Boros cards left in here. A very late Croconaur.
Yeah, a murder investigation, not spectacular, the only card in color, but I think he just grabs the Croconaur there. If anything, keeps it out of somebody else's deck.
Yeah, I mean, it's so early. We're not even calling it a hate draft. There's still a chance that it'd be some sort of Naya build. Riot Gear is the best on-color pick, and that card is of such a lower level that still in pack one, playing Take the best card is probably what you want to be doing.
And a Bomber Core. In this pack, along with Zerichi Tiger or Zachary Tiger, as Tom Martell, I believe, referred to.
Interestingly enough, Bomber Core stays on target with Boros. However, Crowned Ceratok is the strongest card in the pack. Because of a lot of his Boros picks, the Legionnaire and the Guildmage are actually Boros. He faces an interesting pick.
He does go with the Ceratok. Okay, so a couple of green picks in a row for Ben Stark. And we say an adaptive Snapjaw.
And a very large, if he wants to really be Gruul, for Borigmos.
Borigmos, but that and the Snapjaw.
We'll probably see him just stay with the Snapjaw. Bobo, not a really...
I mean, he's quite a bomb, but
yeah, not exactly. At that mana, I mean, there's a lot of really large creatures. You know, stuff like if you want to play that much mana, cards like Rage Beast or Adaphage are really much stronger options.
There's a Scorchwalker. I imagine he's thinking of that. Yeah, and he does.
No love for Verdant Haven. Ben really, he seems to really prefer to be aggressive in this format.
Yeah.
So this point, he's almost Gruul splashing white, possibly for the Guild Mage. He's going to go immediately for this Mark for Death.
Yeah.
So we're going to see Ben actually head back toward Gruul, it looks like, for a second draft in a row.
Yeah, the white cards just are not flowing, and we'll see what these next few...
Boros has become so popular. It's just, I think a lot of people's valuations of the Boros cards have
not
just
a single
really
white
shot
card
up.
in the pack, and there's a Verdant Haven, I believe.
Liking it more than the Riot Gear, especially since he's starting to get a lot of large creatures. Riot Gear, kind of playable in Boros. I really try not to play in any of other decks.
Gets, I believe, a Ruination Worm.
Right, yeah, but I think Ben has really hit his stride. He's found the guild that he's supposed to be in, and my guess is actually going both ways. He's going to end up with plenty of playables in this deck.
Yeah, this is looking a lot more consistent. Like, the deck is coming together a lot better than, I think, his first draft.
To be fair, he did 3-0 the first draft, but yeah, the first one was...
Sure.
He wasn't very happy with.
Yeah, and I don't think we thought it was very spectacular either.
To find out, he only has 2 Boros cards, which would be the Sky Knight Legionnaire and the Sunhome Guildmage. Guildmage is certainly a card that you can splash even. But otherwise, in green, he has a nice curve laid out. He has a Krakenura,
the Crown Ceratok,
Pit Fight, Scorchwalker.
Adaptive Snapjaw.
Yeah, so I mean, he's going to need a little more at the low end of the curve, but I think he has a good mid-range.
You see 3, 4, 5 in green right there.
Yeah.
And Tower Defense. Not going to get...
Tower Defense is actually a card which you can side in sometimes. Typically, if you get enough of the real tricks, such as Burst of Strength, or you end up not playing it. But yeah, it is a board card.
I was very amused when I saw that card. The name of it, just, Tower Defense, really? Okay.
Yeah. Just got a picture of people running up into towers to shoot down the dragons.
Almost the same as a launch party.
Alright, so we see Wojak Halberdiers and Boros, but I think
a couple of Boros cards there and a Primal Visitation. I feel like maybe, what do you think, Tiger maybe? If he's splashing, I don't know.
Tiger can't possibly be the pick. He's going to want to stay on target.
Unless Halberdiers.
Yeah, he's going to go with Halberdiers. He still wants to be an aggro deck, and he needs 2 drops more than anything else. He's not sure. He knows he's red. He's not sure which direction he's going. If you're going to go white, you're going to want to stay aggressive. You're going to want to do it for a high-powered card. Tiger something, especially, which you wouldn't even want to play more than one of in the main deck. It's probably too early for a pick like that.
Yeah, there was also a Smite in that pack, but again...
Right. We're the wrong guild for that.
Right, yeah. The Smite's very powerful in Orzhov, a little less powerful in the Boros
So
guild.
we see a Sky Knight Legionnaire, but also a Rubble Hulk. This is an interesting decision pick here as to which one he's going to be taking.
Drops.
He needs a low drop, and that's one of the excellent low drops in Boros. On the other hand, Rubble Hulk is a very strong card as well. He's going to go with Sky Knight Legionnaire, and I think that is the correct pick. Rubble Hulk is replaceable by things like Xertos Swine. He also has a Burning Tree Emissary. Really, Ben is showing a clear preference for aggro decks. And possible that he's, still kind of waffling between Boros and Gruul, taking what's getting passed to him.
Yeah, there's, he could end up more solidly Naya than it looked a few minutes ago. Rather than a splash, maybe he actually ends up with a heavier white.
Yeah, so now in this next pack, Disciple of the Old Ways is really his only pick here.
Which
brings him back into a 3-card deck. It's not so much that we want a green 2-drop. It kind of goes against what we've been doing. It's more that he just doesn't have another pick. Another Ruination Worm, a Night Watch. He could, if he really wants to just plug in on Boros, he can take that Night Watch. But he's gonna go.
He does go with the Disciple.
So now he's gonna have to pay some attention to his mana. You can see a little bit of a frown on his face. He's going to try to figure out a way. He wants to make sure that a lot of his cards don't end up in the sideboard, and that's gonna be a challenge for him. But still, I would expect some number of gifts in the last pack. Remember, he got a 4th pick Sunhome Guildmage. That is something.
Yeah, so it's likely that the Boros cards are flowing more that way than this way.
Really open from the side. There's a Grizzly Spectacle coming in at 4th pick here. That rarely makes it through a black drafter. He's going to take another Disciple. It's one of the better 2-drops.
Yeah, something he can use rather than something someone else can't. Yeah. What do you think? If that Disciple's not there, does he take the Spectacle just to
I don't
take
recall.
it from someone else?
No, I take the Angelic Edict.
Okay, okay, that makes
your
sense.
own deck is... You need to pay attention to your own deck first.
Yeah, I actually kind of forgot the Edict was in there.
Yeah. So here he's kind of down to 1 pick. He takes a second Adaptive Snapshot. It may not make the cut here. Simic looks to be really open. There was a Simic Flux Mage still in the pack along with a Cloudfin Raptor. Once again, Simic I've noticed as a whole on the day is being underdrafted. Maybe not so, as it's still not the deck 3. You know, it looks like it's always open, but still not the deck that's 3-0ing most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it's being drafted about as much as it should be.
And we have a Foundry Street Denizen, a Night Watch, Wildwood Rebirth.
Yeah, he takes Burst of Strength.
Okay.
It was probably between Burst of Strength and Armored Transport. The best card here is this Bane Alley Broker. Obviously, he can't take it.
Yeah.
Burst of Strength, like one of the better combat tricks, I would say. So at this point, yeah, he's mostly a red-green deck, but with a lot of different direction to it. We see a second Verdant. He'll play a second Verdant Haven. He's a little aggro for a second Verdant Haven, but his other option is Spire Tracer.
Yeah, I think he goes with the Verdant Havens.
He's going to need to find a way to play all these cards. Unfortunately, his Verdant Havens cost 3, and so do most of... He wants all his colors very early, so his aggro cards might not come on time. That said, with cards, when his Boros cards are things like Sky Knight Legionnaires and Sunhome Guild Mages, it doesn't particularly matter when they show up, more just that they do. Those cards are, Sky Knight Legionnaire is still great on turn 6.
Sure. And Hellraiser Goblin there, the choice. That was the first one we've seen, I think.
Yeah, now I'm wondering how Ben's feeling right now about that Sky Knight Legionnaire Rubble Hulk pick. That's the one I'd want to, I guess bring him back. I don't think we're doing an interview this time around, but that's one I'm wondering if he regrets that pick.
Goes with a Bomber Core.
Yeah, that guy tables out of the pack.
Not really much else for him to take there.
Yeah, and that's a pretty fortunate one for him. Yeah, it's a pretty fortunate card for him to get. I believe that was the Sky Knight was initially out of that pack. So.
Red 1-drop and Foundry Street Denizen there.
Mm-hmm. Right, so and he has enough red 2-drops that thing should be able to be activated. Sorry, he had a Wojak Halberdiers the first time out of that pack.
What do you grab? A Clinging and Enemies, I think?
Yeah, just hate drafting.
Yeah, sure.
He doesn't ever expect he's going to play the Razor Tip Whip, and Enemies is the best card against his deck.
Structural Collapse, Razor Tip Whip. He grabs the Whip.
Whip could be sideboarded, and Structural Collapse is actually not a card.
Just blank cardboard, pretty much.
Yeah, it's he can proxy on the other side of it.
Paranoid Delusions or Predator's Rapport. He grabs the Delusions. So
right,
that was pack 2.
Yeah, not the worst place for him to be in. The question is, I guess the biggest question is how's the mana going to work? And things we do actually know the answer. The answer is Verdant Haven. He's probably not thrilled about the fact that that's the answer. I mean, he does have a lot of 2-drops.
He's got a couple Verdant Havens, right? 2 copies.
So he's still definitely a base Gruul deck. He has a Sky Knight Legionnaire, a Wojak Halberdiers, and a Sunhome Guild Mage, or 2 Sky Knight Legionnaires. The Halberdiers is probably the only awkward card on the splash here. He's just he's laying out to make sure he knows where his main color and where his splash is. And it does look like Gruul's going to have to be the main color, otherwise he doesn't get to enough playables.
And yeah, all the players taking a look at their cards before pack 3.
But Gerard looking pretty unhappy with his pack. We'll get a chance to look at that one in just a second.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Again, we are in the top 8 draft of Grand Prix Charlotte, the largest Magic the Gathering tournament ever.
Yeah. So
2,693 players, and there's an Obsidat.
Something he can't take, a great card. Obsidat, Kingpin's Pet, the best 2 cards in his pack. For his deck, we saw Burning Tree Emissary and maybe Boros Guildgate. We also,
and he goes with the Emissary.
Yep. I think he just wants a really explosive pack start. He also doesn't get Gift of Orzola, which is another card he can play. I think he wants more creatures at this point, and he really wants to be able to just come out of the gate to his opponent.
But arguably, that could be a pick if he were in a little bit better situation regarding the number of creatures.
Yeah, the Obsidat had a pretty unfortunate open for him.
Yeah.
And then, all right. So yeah, the good Orzhov cards, not too much else in the pack. So he has a Grisly Spectacle in here, can't play that.
Croconura, I believe a Mark for Death.
And then Ogre
Wasteland
Slumlord.
Viper. Yeah, Ogre Slumlord in the front there.
And he took the...
I think he took the Viper. Or is that the... No, he didn't take the Viper, I'm sorry. Croconura, I guess?
Yeah, he took the Croconura. So he passed the Viper and the Warmind Infantry, opting for Croconura as the card. It's probably just a preference thing there.
Ivy Lane Denizen also in that pack.
Yeah, a lot of good Gruul cards. If you look at what he had in there, he had Warmind Infantry, the Viper, Mark for Death, and Ivy Lane Denizen. It's very possible he'll table something out of that pack.
Another Warmind Infantry, a Rust Scarab, another Croconura, a Homing Lightning.
He's a little low on removal, so I think we see that Lightning moving to the card that he wants. Plenty of cards here which he could play as well. I think we definitely figured out that at the end of the pack one he was in the right guild, and he's kind of getting rewarded by this. He's getting a lot of strong picks.
He needs another 5-hour energy, I think.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely been a long day. Remember, these players woke up this morning for 2 rounds of Sealed, and then this is their 3rd draft of the day.
Yeah. So, a couple of Boros cards in here.
Yeah, there's a Firefist Striker and a Wojak Halberdiers and a Bomber Corps. My guess is he's going to go for Firefist Striker just because of mana requirements. Typically, it's worse than Halberdiers, but he does make that play. Just because he's not sure how much white he's actually going to splash in this Gruul deck.
Also, an Angelic Edict in that pack.
Right. I mean, in an ideal spot, he may not have to splash white at all. That said, he probably wants to. Between 2 Legionnaires and a Guild Mage, that's still a good plan, even though it may be a little more fragile because his mana's not great.
Alright, we see a Drakewing Crassus right there.
And a huge open for him. Another Firefist Striker and a Gruul Rage Beast and a Slaughterhorn.
Also a Pit Fight
and a Pit Fight. So, interesting pick. Striker is probably the nuttiest card here if you're really going for a nut draw deck. I don't think he's going to go with the Rage Beast. He actually goes with Pit Fight.
That was his first pick.
Interesting. That's I'm very impressed with the speed with which that pick happened. Second Firefist Striker can be very strong, as can Slaughterhorn. But Ben, clearly a big fan of Pit Fight.
Yeah, and you see a massive rated Disciple of the Old Ways, a Sacred Foundry.
Yeah, a 3rd Disciple is almost... Okay, he's actually going with Sacred Foundry. Yeah, the 3rd Disciple, not as relevant to him. He already has his critical mass of 2 drops. He doesn't have a lot of madcap skills or ways to make Disciple much better than the Grizzly Bear. I think this to me shows he's definitely planning to splash those Boros cards.
Right. So I believe a Fortress Cyclops, another Legionnaire.
Another Legionnaire is almost certainly what's in his deck here.
He is certainly considering it there. That seems to be what he's got his eye on.
Also, he's thinking whether or not he needs the Gruul Guildgate, whether he can play the
massive raid.
He took Gruul Guildgate over. Okay, so maybe it's not certainly the pick. He's just worried enough about his mana that he's passing cards that are definitively more powerful.
Already, right? So,
yep.
I mean, it'd be nice to have a 3rd, but
he'd rather just make sure he can cast his spells.
I believe is that a Ruination Worm there? As the big guy, a Frenzied Tilling, a Guild Scorn Ward. Yeah, he's going to go with the Tilling, I believe?
Yeah, it's just another way to fix his mana. I think it seems to me like in his playables count, he's reached 23, so at this point, cards like Legionnaire become less valuable because it's not like he needs this as a playable, it's simply an upgrade. We're going to see an easy Guildgate. All he's doing is he's upgrading the 20. He's like, in this picture in his head, he has a list of 23 cards. So when he looks at this card, he's thinking like, well, what would I cut now that I get to run this?
Right.
And I think the thing he's worried most about his deck is the mana not working.
Yeah. And so we've seen a couple Gates picked in just the last few
Gates picked certainly in situations where you wouldn't have expected. You would not have expected a Gruul Guildgate to be picked over Sky Knight Legionnaire in normal circumstances.
Mark for Death or Nav Squad Commandos?
Mark for Death does something the other cards can't. Especially when you're playing Gruul, Nav Squad Commandos is really sometimes just not a big enough creature.
Right. More on defense than...
You got a Rust Scarab, for example. Yeah. Very similar to a green Nav Squad Commandos.
And what do we get out of this pack?
Primal Visitation. It did work really well for him his last time he drafted Gruul. With 2 cards to go, we finished rounding out the draft. Is that a Gruul Rage Beast second to last pick?
I think it was.
That is incredible. I do believe. I'm curious if it'll make his cut.
Yeah, because I mean that really means Gruul Rage Beast tabled.
That was very fast. I'm not positive
Yeah, it would be.
I understand that people really don't like 7-drops, but that to me seems off the charts.
Yeah, I mean, it's ends up being a removal spell, or more than one removal spell plus a 6/6.
We'll bring back into the booth.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just saw there Ben Stark drafting a Gruul splashing white deck.
Yep.